Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome to my third place deck profile of what I took to Sovereign's non-meta tournament number 3. Obviously this tournament is hosted by myself, but I played Majespecter Windwitch, which is a very interesting deck. I think it was honestly a lot of fun, but I unfortunately didn't get into first or second place, but I mean, still, third place is still making it into top cut. I think overall, after my Swiss rounds, I ended 3-1. In fact, everyone who was in top cut ended up 3-1. And then I lost my top 4 match, and then I won the third place match. So I won it against my first round opponent as well. We played in round 1 and in the final, like I guess our last match. So that was baloney, by the way. He was playing Galaxy. I ended up winning against him in round 1 and the third place. But this is the list, so I'm gonna go over it. 3 cat, 3 crow, 3 fox, 3 raccoon, 3 toad. So 3 of every Majespecter, obviously except for Kieran, since Kieran is banned. For the Windwitch engine, it's pretty standard, being the 3 Ice Bell, 2 Glass Bell, 1 Snow Bell. Just very standard on that aspect as well. 3 copies of Cosmic Cyclone, 2 copies of Majespecter Cyclone, 2 copies of Majesty Pegasus, 2 copies of Tempest, 2 copies of Tornado. So these are the Majespecter spells and traps, which are very important to the deck actually. Cyclone you can search off of Toad as well as Crow, and the Tempest you can search off of Toad and Fox, as well as Tornado being the same way as well. I think this list is pretty nice for the most part. Unfortunately, there isn't as many skill 2s. I think Kieran is actually a skill 2, if I remember. But it is banned, so obviously you can't play it. So it was a little hard for me to get into Cat as well as the Fox. But, I mean, Cat was the main skill 2 that you use most of the time. For the rest of the deck, we played 2 copies of Extravagance, 2 copies of the Judgment, the 3 copies of the Ties of the Brethren, and the 1 copy of Terraforming to search for the Pegasus. So this list was honestly pretty solid. In my extra deck, you can see I played a lot of multiples. I played 3 copies of a level 7 Synchro. Clearing Fast Dragon came up like once, and Clearing Synchro Dragon was possible to come up once, but unfortunately it didn't. I definitely should have played 2 better cards over the second Clearing Fast Dragon and the Clearing Synchro Dragon, which would have been the Windwitch Winterbell, which I knew existed. I just didn't think that it would come up because I didn't want to play into Ghost Ogre, since I knew Ghost Ogre was going to be popular for this tournament. But I should have played a copy of Winterbell because it would have burned for an extra 800 damage when I Synchro Summon, which at some points could actually be enough for game if you think about it, because if you have a Ice Bell as well as any level 4 normal summon, so your Fox, your Crow, or your Toad, any 3 of these, you actually have game on board if you play the Winter Bell. So I'll explain it really quick. Basically, Ice Bell gets you into Glass Bell, search a Snow Bell. You burn your opponent for 500, that's 75. Then you can go ahead and special summon your Snowbell out of your hand, normal summon any of your Majespecter guys, synchro into Chanbara, and then you can also synchro into the Winter Bell. And at that point, Chambara is going to attack for 22, then 24, which is 46, subtracted by the 800 from you burning from Winter Bell, as well as the 500 from burning from Ice Bell. That's 13, so that's going to put him at 5,900. And then you can attack with Winter Bell for game, which is going to be 8,300 points of damage. So I definitely should have played Winter Bell because of that specific OTK. It's 2 cards, and it kills your opponent immediately. It would have came up in, I believe, the final match that I played. So I think that is important to know that I should have played Winterbell instead of probably the Clearing Synchro Dragon or the second copy of Fast Dragon, even though I played the Extravagances for it. 3 copies of Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, just because this card's insane. 1 Chambara. It only came up like once or twice, but I still think it was like worth playing, so I just kept it in as a 1 of. If I banish it, I banish it. It's like not really the end of the world, but it comes up sometimes. 2 copies of Lightning Chidori, 2 copies of Totem Bird. So obviously the Lightning Chidori is really nice to get rid of back row as well as problem monsters on the field, but typically your entire engine does this. It's just very rare that, you need an extra removal, so you can just do that with Chidori if you need to. Totem Bird came up quite a lot if you wanted to attack for game and you really didn't want to play into back row like storing mirror forces and stuff, so Totem Bird was really nice for that. Great Fly was also really cool. I think it came up like once. Probably wouldn't play it in 2 copies. I'd probably cut it down to 1 or maybe 0. When the Wind Charmer was kind of neat. It came up like a couple times as well. So I think like the extra deck is pretty flexible. You can honestly switch a lot of this out for some other cards. I definitely think obviously the Winter Bell is better, and I think the best card for me to play in the extra deck that I ended up just not playing is the Wind Pegasus at Ignister. So you can use this as a stepping stone when you're going into your Crystal Wing, actually, since it doesn't lock you into dragons or anything. It just locks you into level 5 or higher winds, which is actually what this is. Because you can, it's at least a pop, and it's a non-targeting spell trap destruction, right? That's what I meant. A non-targeting MST, pretty much. And that's pretty crazy, but if that wasn't enough, and if another card on your field is destroyed while it's in your graveyard, you can banish it from your grave and then shuffle a card your opponent controls into the deck. It is targeting removal, but it's still removal for free out of your graveyard. Pretty insane card, honestly, and I didn't know this card even existed. Well, I knew it existed, I just didn't know what it did or anything like that, but I didn't know its typing was also like very well into the deck, so I definitely should have played that over the Clearing Synchro Dragon at least. So I think that Wind Pegasus would have been something a very, very good inclusion into this deck, if not like in multiples. I also think Clearing Fast Dragon is also pretty nice, being able to negate any monster that was summoned from the extra deck. Moving on into my side deck, I played 1 copy of Dino Wrestler Pinkertops. In fact, this probably should be organized a little bit more, something like this. Something like this, I think, is probably the organization that we need to go off of. 1 Pinkertops, 1 Raigeki, 1 Lightning Storm. So these are just the board breakers that I sided in, the 1 of board breakers, so I could side in a playset of a card that would break boards, essentially. Same thing with the Dark Hole, so I technically have 6 cards to force out negates, force out destruction stuff. Humongous, just in case if my opponent's on Waking the Dragon or some other card that's just insane, I could just pop down a Kaiju over a huge boss monster like Cyber Dragon Infinity, just get rid of it pretty much. Impermanence Veilers, these are just to stop, just like they're the most flexible hand trap in this format right now, with Ash being banned and Veiler or Impermanence being at 1. Obviously you have to replace it with something, so I put in 2 Veilers. I think these are just the most flexible hand trap in general. And then for the last part of the side deck, I played 2 copies of Warning as well as a D-Barrier. So the reason I played Warning and not Strike was because I figured this would stop fusion spells as well as ritual spells. So that was the idea. I wasn't exactly too certain as to what other people would play. Obviously, I had access to people's deck lists, but I made this before everyone submitted their deck list, since I do have access to deck lists, but I give them access to mine as well, so it's fair. But I make my deck list before people send me theirs, or before, even if I make it after, I don't take their deck list into an account. But I was thinking, in the previous one, I saw some people on Hungry Burger, and I was playing the Invoked Engine as well. So I figured, like, this could stop Alistair's normal summon, this could stop Invocation, this can stop, Hungry Burger or, like, other ritual decks in general. So I figured Solemn Warning was a better option over Strike, especially because we have a in-archetype Strike in the form of Tempest. This is literally Strike. It does the same thing, it just tributes as cost instead of paying 15 as cost. Then I played a copy of D-Barrier as the final card, which I never saw, but I cited it in, I just never saw it. I played it for the same reason as Warning, just because I can call Ritual, I can call Fusion, and just end their turn. Except it's a little bit more flexible than Warning is, I think, but that's why it's limited. But that's going to do it for my deck profile. I think that it was really fun to play. This is honestly one of my favorite decks of all time. It is super, super easy to pick up, but yeah, it's going to be really, really fun. Go ahead and try this if you want to play in the next tournament. Unfortunately, in the next tournament, a couple cards are going to be hit. The ban list is out right now, so I can go ahead and show you. Ice Bell is going to 2, and the Ties of the Brethren is going to 1. So that's going to be the only major hits to this deck. So possibly you could just switch a Glass Bell out and take out a Glass Bell and take out an Ice Bell. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not exactly too sure. Maybe you could just take out the one ice spell, and then just play it as a 2/2/1 engine, since you can ties for the glass spell, even though ties is at 1 as well. But there's a little bit more of like experimentation that needs to be done with this list if you're going to play it for SNMT4. But obviously, in SNMT3, it was all legal. So yeah. With all that said, I think that's going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed the deck list and my thought process into making this list. I think it was very, very fun. I really enjoyed playing this deck, one of my favorites of all time. And I will see you guys in the next one.